Murray Perahia, welcome to the Digital Concert Hall.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Pleasure.
You are the Berlin Philharmonic's 9th pianist in residence,
Right.
and you've been here quite a lot this year. What have been your highlights so far? You've still got some stuff to do.
I've loved everything. First, I played with a group of youngsters, the Academy.
The Carry-On Academy.
Exactly. And I liked that very much. And then I did 2 chamber music evenings, one with you. And I had a great time.
That was fun. And I know people ask you this a lot, but I've got to ask you this as well. Do you have a preference? Do you prefer chamber music? Do you prefer solo recitals? Do you prefer playing concertos with orchestras? Or is it like asking you if you have a favorite piece?
Yeah,
is it a cruel
it's
question?
It's a little like that. Everything is a different kind of challenge, and perhaps the most challenging is the solo recital.
Because that's coming up.
It's coming up, yes. But because that's so many styles and so many different aspects of technical and musical preparation. But I love playing chamber music. That was my first, in a way, contact with music was when I was 15. I went to a chamber music camp in Maine, in the United States, and I studied with Arthur Balsam, a wonderful pianist. And then about 2 years later, I went to Marlborough. Marlborough, Vermont.
Yes. Oh, Vermont. I thought you meant Marlborough, England.
No, Marlborough, Vermont, where Rudolf Serkin had a summer course, so to speak. It was called the Republic of Equals, and you had a chance to play with older established artists like Pablo Casals, who I played with quite a lot. Not so much in Marlborough, but he invited me to Puerto Rico, and we did a lot of chamber music. But members of the Budapest Quartet, Guarneri Quartet, a lot of very good chamber music players. And that was my first important contact with
It's
music.
a more social action, isn't it, as well, to play chamber music? Because as a soloist, you spend most of your time on your own, on the road.
Quite right, sitting and practicing. And it's very nice to interchange with people. And what I found is that there's not one right way to make music. That there are many, many different possibilities depending on the personalities and on the personalities involved. Some people need slower tempos, some people need faster tempos. It doesn't really make that much difference if the heart is involved.
We enjoyed that about playing with you because we weren't quite sure, the Murray Perahia playing chamber music with him, and we were all really excited to do that. But when we got there, it was just like a dialogue. We thought maybe you'd come with all your ideas and tell us how to do it, but it was really like a dialogue.
That's how I feel one should approach musicians. So although I have a lot of ideas, I work out a lot of ideas, they're more a little bit on the background level, and on the foreground, there are many ways of interpreting.
And then you can rehearse it all and you do something different in the concert.
Quite.
Anyway, so.
I can never quite play the same way twice, much to the difficulties of my recording engineers, because I can't get 2 takes in the same sort of spirit or tempo.
Really cut
they can't
it all
really
together.
cut. Yeah.
That's tough.
Well, they do.
So when you conduct, do you feel more at home when you conduct? Because you do quite a lot conducting and playing.
Yes, I'm basically doing Mozart concertos or Bach concertos, and then I round out the program with a symphony. But I'm not principally a conductor as such.
But you enjoy that sort of...
I do.
That interchange?
I do, because I think of it as extended chamber music. And all of the players are my friends. We've played a lot together, and it's not without experience and history to it.
I grew up with these wonderful Mozart recordings with the English Chamber Orchestra. They were like the ultimate ones.
I enjoyed working with these musicians very much. And for instance, with the wind players, we often played Mozart and Beethoven quintets. And with the string players, I played quartets and things. So I got to know them. So conducting them was really just an extended chamber music. And very often the oboist would say, well, can we phrase it this way? And I said, well, sure, if it works, let's try it. And it was like that.
There's a film which was made about you, Not of This World, it's called, and there's a lot of that film is about you working, was it the English Chamber Orchestra?
At that time it would be the Academy.
The Academy. And but you can tell you all know each other really,
Yes.
really well.
Yes.
And they even say some great things about you.
Or not.
Or not. Well, my favorite quote was actually the cellist who said, well,
Yes.
I feel like a bit of a bad person because I go off after the concert and have a beer with the others, and Murray comes in the next day and says, oh, I spent all evening with the score.
That's true.
And he said he felt like a bad person because he hadn't been doing that. But you do think a lot about your music. You put
Yes, I
an
do.
awful lot of time into thinking about it, not just practicing it.
That's absolutely right. I spend a lot of time, not at the piano, but writing sort of analysis of the music or copying it out. Just simply copying it out is very helpful.
There was one scene in the film that you were on a train and you were writing something. That must have been what you were doing. And it looked like you were writing down what you were about to play.
What I was about to listen to, because I was going to a master class.
Okay.
And it was what I was about to teach. Because I like to teach the piece, not so much how the player plays it. Because I think once we understand the piece, then we can each come to our individual responses. Mm-hmm. But if you say, well, play diminuendo or play crescendo there, it's sort of ordering the student about to do it your way. And that's not, I don't think, what a teacher should do.
Well, one thing that you do a lot, which I'm in total awe of, in fact, you do it all the time, is you analyze the harmonies, you analyze the direction the music is going in. As a simple horn player, we find that we can hear where it's going, but if someone asked me, first I'd have to transpose it from F into C, and then terribly complicated. But this is how you work.
This is how I work. I have a sort of system, I didn't make it, of Schenkerian analysis. And actually, it's quite appropriate to bring it up in Berlin because Furtwängler studied 30 years with Heinrich Schenker, who developed this
This is an Austrian theologist.
Austrian musicologist of some kind. But what he really was doing was getting back to the old texts of C.P. Bach, Kernberger, who studied with Bach, and seeing how Bach taught and what was important to them in music, figured bass, for instance, and species counterpoint, and how they translated that into their own music, so that it never lost its sense of direction. Harmonies which, for instance, evaded the key were important detours, but somehow you had to get back, and all of these things, so that you could see the whole piece in one sort of flash. That was the purpose of it. And Furtwängler was very strongly influenced by that. When I asked his wife how important was Schenker, we were eating and she dropped the spoon and she said, the most important influence on my husband's musical life.
Wow.
And also Bruno Walter studied with Schenker, and George Zell studied the method, and also Karajan also spent time with it.
Is there a danger that the music can become too intellectual if you're working it out like this?
I never feel that. The people argue that, but I always feel the mind and the heart are always together. So that if you're, for instance, not home, not in the home key, you feel it emotionally. Or if you make a detour to some unexpected place, it's an emotional response as well. It's not divorced from your emotions.
Do you? What do you play for fun?
You know, I like to listen to jazz.
Ah.
Yeah, because I love the way that they improvise. That was part of being a composer. I mean, Beethoven improvised. That's what people went to hear. Not so much, Czerny says when he played an actual sonata, it wasn't so good because he had forgotten it. He didn't know the notes very well. And, no, it was the improvisations, Mozart's improvisations, Chopin's improvisations were what people went to hear and what really brought out the best in the composer. For instance, when they had competitions, Clementi with Mozart, it was based on their improvisations.
So would you consider improvising in a Mozart concerto if you felt like it?
I couldn't do it.
Why not?
I don't know. I had too much of a background worrying about every note, and where it's going, that I couldn't let myself go. But I admire the jazz players that they can do wonderful things.
It's incredible. And then they always find their way back to the key.
And they find their way back. And they're thinking 32 bars, which classical musicians don't.
But they're not thinking. They just feel it.
They're feeling 32 bars.
I asked Wynton Marsalis once, I said, how do you know when to get back? Oh, we just feel it.
Exactly. And that shows that feeling and thought is connected in music when one's really doing it. But musicians, on the whole, they think by note, or let's say 4 bars. But they don't think in 32 bars or 64 bars or whatever it is.
No. So the Schumann concerto that you're playing tonight, there's only one of I always find it such a shame that Schumann only wrote one piano concerto.
It's such a shame, but it's a wonderful, wonderful piece. Written, I think, for Clara, with her in mind. I think the last movement is a wedding, but a Shakespearean wedding with magic dust and Midsummer Nights.
It certainly sounds like
Midsummer
something
Night's
fairy
Dream.
tale-ish is going on there. It just doesn't stop. It's like it turns into a ball almost.
Exactly.
You can see the people dancing.
Exactly.
How many times have you played this piece?
I've played it quite a bit from early on. It was one of my first concertos, actually.
And what are the biggest challenges for you? Are there still challenges after?
Oh, every time.
After so long?
Every time. I think just to make it poetic, from the heart, speak, all of that. Because one changes. You're not the same person today that you were yesterday.
You recorded it with
With Abado,
Abado,
and before that with Colin Davis.
and when you hear, do you go back and listen
I
to
never
it?
listened.
Never.
Never. No, that was another person so many years back.
So you feel you've changed a lot over the years.
I've changed a lot, yes.
And you don't. I would find it interesting, though. I must go and have a listen to see the difference to how you play it tonight, and how you played it.
But for me, it might be painful.
Really?
I don't know.
You think
I
so?
don't know.
One thing I did want to ask you, it's this topic about modern music, because here at the Berlin Philharmonic, Simon brought a lot of fresh air and
yes, I think it's important.
And it's something I couldn't find in your discography that
No.
you don't really play much. You played Britain.
I played a lot of Britain because I had the chance to know him and play to him. And Tippett, I played the first sonata. I played a lot of Bartók. But you see,
there's a lovely video of you and Schulte playing Bartók
we
together.
did, yes. Berg sonata I played. But what I'm more and more trying to understand the secrets of tonality. That's what I'm interested in. Why did Bach write a B flat and not a B natural? It means a lot to me. And so I'm preoccupied with this subject, and modern music doesn't answer it, obviously. I'm all for people doing it, but I myself have to concentrate on a different repertoire.
I was thinking maybe that was what that's one of the great secrets of your success. I mean, apart from the fact you're an amazing pianist, but that is your thing. That is really your thing, your Bach, your Mozarts, and that you just didn't cross this line over into the modern world.
I tried for a while, and I found I just didn't understand it. I found that the laws, because I'm interested in what governs a piece, why is it going in this direction, that the laws weren't comparable to tonality, that once you broke the laws of tonality, you couldn't go back for answers to those pieces.
I read that Schenker wrote that that Schoenberg and Stravinsky were abominations.
He was very, very nasty. He went over the top, I think. But Schoenberg respected Schenker, and it was a big loss for Schoenberg that he couldn't get Schenker's backing.
Well, he must have had it still with Gurlieder and the huge things like
yes,
that.
Anything relating to tonality would be possible to understand with this kind of thought. And that's the problem. Do you give up this kind of thought, or you suspend it for this little bit? But I wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
Is it the same with modern art?
No, I'm much more, let's say, favorable towards it because I have no preconceptions.
You don't have to perform it.
I don't have to perform it, and I don't have ideas related to it, so I'm very open to it. And I like sometimes listening to contemporary music if I can sort of get it. Not always the case. But if I can't, no, I can't do it.
On the contemporary basis, there's another question that I like to ask the guests at the Digital Concert Hall, what they think about this whole modern media way of having classical music available out there online. Is that, when I looked you up, that's what we do when we're preparing an interview, you Google someone, and there are so many videos of you playing amazing music and hardly anything of you talking about you.
Yeah. Well, no, I like the YouTube kind of world. I think there are amazing things in it that you can access. You can see people playing, even of the past. You can watch Courtauld playing, you can watch Furtwängler conducting, Casals playing, those
Pollini
things.
said he wished that Mozart had done some YouTube videos. That would have been, we would have all really appreciated that.
Yes, quite. Only, I wouldn't play like Mozart played because I'm reaching a modern audience with modern sensibilities. I think to imitate someone is not a good idea. So, for instance, you have that great example. It's a tendency to mimic them. I remember, for instance, around Casals, who was such a great cellist, all these people, cellists, trying to imitate him. It was disaster. They didn't play from their heart. They didn't play from inside themselves. And I think no matter, even I would have loved to have heard Mozart and Beethoven and all of that, you still have to find your own way. It's not an easy panacea towards a performance.
The best students are the ones that can take everything from what they see, and then put it together and take what works for them best. But that's hard to...
It's hard because you have to find your own voice, only not self-consciously find your own voice so that it's natural.
But that's what the modern media does. It's so available now. I mean, you can just click on someone and you can see how they play this, how they conduct this. And
in a way, it's wonderful, and in a way, you have to be careful. So
in a way, it's scary,
It's scary, yeah. It's wonderful, though.
But to go, do you feel you have to sell yourself as a person as well these days, or
I don't sell
the
myself.
music? No, you don't say much, do you?
And I don't sell myself, no.
You don't need to.
Well, I don't know. That part of the business, so to speak, never attracted me too much.
Well, this film that we have on the Digital Concert Hall now, which I hope everyone's going to watch, I found it very touching because it's a mixture between you explaining how you make your music and also you're sitting there in a photo shoot saying you felt like a monkey.
Yeah, I do a bit when the cameras are clicking. No, but I try to, for instance, approach a piece of music from many levels, not only the Schenkerian. Mm-hmm. And for instance, the emotional, I try sometimes to make a story, like I told you about the Schumann with the last movement, a wedding or a ball or something like that. So very often I have approachable stories that people without much education in music could understand, because I think there's metaphors. It's not exactly the story, but very often in those, Schumann himself wrote titles that allude to literary themes. All of the Carnival, for instance, has something about the Davidsbündler, that is his club against the old fogies in music. So I think you can use music as a metaphor if you just don't go too far with it.
Do you explain that to your students? Do you find the stories changing over the years?
All the time. But you know, they can be reduced. The stories, let's say in Chopin, very important story is exile. And the fact that he's far away from Poland, but wants Poland to get its freedom. That is very much a feeling in many of his pieces, so it can be reduced, and you can find your own meaning to it.
Is that what goes on in your head out there on stage? Are you telling yourself a story, or
on stage? Not.
No.
This is the preparation.
This is the preparation.
On stage, I'm always interested in the line. Mm-hmm. The line has to go somewhere, and that's why no two performances are alike, because they don't start the same way, and therefore you have a responsibility to that beginning to go on in that way and to go on with that phrase. And whatever happens, happens.
Can you sense it before, or as when it starts? Do you have a feeling during the day of how it's going to?
I never know how it's going to be. I never know. And I can never predict a performance. Sometimes I'm feeling low, and the performance is great. Sometimes I'm feeling high, performance is not so good.
Sometimes everyone says, that was amazing, and you feel like that was...
Yes, true. Or the other way around, which is not so pleasant. You thought, wow, and everybody comes with a sour face.
Yeah. So your aim with the Schumann tonight?
To intoxicate, to ecstasy is an important part of it, singing, poetic aspects. All kinds of moods go through one's mind.
Well, I really hope you're going to be back here very, very soon.
Thank you very much.
And it's been great to have you here all year and to have this personal contact with you as well.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it very much.
So have we. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you. Pleasure.